And we have to understand that the humans, as we know of, history doesn't give us the truth about human beings. Humans are 200,000 years old. We have evolved in so many times. We have had uh, uh, evolutions, not evolutions, industrial evolutions that have been over and over. But just now we are beginning to understand that some of the pyramids are 13 years old, 11,000 years old. You know, like the Sphinx, it's 11,000 years old. Like, how can that be? We thought that humans are just 5,000 years old. It's like those people were there. And then from those people, we definitely know that they had dreadlocks on. Then you look into the Greeks, you look into the Vikings, you look into the Romans, you look into, now when you get into Africa, you look into the pharaohs. All those people adorn them for whatever reasons that we don't understand. The indigenous African tribes had them. So it was there in every indigenous culture. The Aborigines, the American Indians had them.
Yes.
What's the name of that? The Mayans had them. All those old historical cultures had them in them. And then somewhere along the line, it gets phased off. When now we become civilized and now we need to look sophisticated, because the philosophers and the scribes had a sudden look and everybody wanted to identify themselves with that look. And so people started cutting their hair to look specifically based on the class that they were in. And so the roughness was left for butchers and farmers and all those other people who didn't need to look good to go into a congregation or something. And then religion came in, and religion required people to look a specific way. Religion has a way of putting people in a specific box. Mm-hmm. And then, so dreadlocks were phased off for a very long time in history, apart from the indigenous tribes of Africa that there was no civilization going on. They walk back into history at the time of civil war in America, when we talked about that, when the all black military group was sent over to annihilate the American Indians, which is sad because that story no one wants to talk about, you know, but they had them, and the African warriors that were there that we talked about. But then something interesting happens in that period of the 50s to the 60s. There was an evolution that came in of consciousness where LSD and weed and mushrooms, and people are becoming more spiritually awakened to understand themselves. And so the government realized that when people become that, they don't care about society or how they look. And so they would keep on their dreadlocks and be free spirits and wear whatever colors they wanted, regardless of who thought anything about them. And so the government put a ban as first-class drugs on all hallucinogens. These are drugs that never killed anybody, drugs that no one ever OD'd on, but they were put on top of every other crack cocaine and every other drug. They were put on top there, and they were identified with dreadlocks to ensure that people don't take them. So everybody who had dreadlocks was seen as a bad person because the government had ensured that happened. And actually, I always say, Bob Marley didn't die of lung cancer suddenly. They had to kill him with lung cancer so that they can show, if you smoke too much weed, you're going to die of lung cancer. And that's not the case. I know people who've smoked cigarettes all their lives and they never had lung cancer. Cancer doesn't get you because you're smoking. Lung cancer doesn't get you because you're smoking. There's so many other things to be looked at before you get there. But anyway, that's my conclusion. It's the same reason why Steve Jobs had prostate cancer, because he denied his daughter. When you think about it, you're like, how are these correlated? You're like, there must be a conspiracy behind these. You know, Kris talks too much. You're like, oh, his voice, he had something with his voice. These people know how to catch people very well. I strongly believe that. But anyway, that movement killed and made dreadlocks look like a bad thing. It's for bad people. And so for a long time, our parents can't allow us. The generation that was there before us couldn't allow from anywhere, parents from anywhere from the 50s, people who were born in the 50s were told this is bad. So anyone who was born from the 70s just couldn't enjoy them because you're considered a thief or a bad person. And then we step into the 90s, and suddenly we have these rock bands that came in, the 80s actually. We have these rock bands that came in that just, just brought back the vibe, And when that vibe came in, people again started to vibe them back in. And people started to adorn locks again.
Yeah.
And then the rappers started to wear them all over in the 90s and all that movement of hip hop culture. And then suddenly it became a cool thing to have dreadlocks on, and it's still a cool thing until now. But still, we still have those people who think, are they dirty? Those people, are you taking any drugs? And I usually tell people, more people smoke weed that don't have dreadlocks than those who have dreadlocks on. Consider that. And I'm like, if you smoke weed, look at everybody who you smoke weed and see how many of them have dreadlocks. You'll find out it's probably only you or no one else has them. I'm like, it's not associated. It has no relationship. Weed has no relationship with dreadlocks at all.
That's right.
You smoke weed because you want to smoke weed, not because you want to have this here. It's completely two different reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
You get it? Like, if whatever I drink my water, whether I have hair or not, I'll still drink my water. You get what I mean?
Yes.